Chapter 3. The First Steps in Ideal Living. Give your best to the world, no matter how insignificant that best may be, and the world will invariably give its best to you. There was nothing great or remarkable about the widow's mite, but it did produce remarkable results, and the reason was she gave her very best. When we give our best, we not only receive the best in return from the outer world, but we also receive the best from the inner world. When you give your best, you bring forth your best, and it is in the bringing forth of your best that causes you to become better and better. When you become better, you will meet better people and enter into better environments, and everything in your life will change for the better, because like does attract like. To give much is to become much, provided we give our best and give with the heart. The giving that comes simply from the hand does not count, no matter how large it may be. It brings nothing back to us, nor does it bring permanent good to anybody else. When you give your best, you do not give from your oversupply or from that which you cannot use. If you have something that you cannot use, it does not belong to you, and you cannot give, in the true sense of the term, what is not your own. To give does not mean simply to give money, unless that is the best you have, but rather to give your own service, your own talents, your ability, your own true worth, and your own real self. The man who lives a real life at all times and under all circumstances is giving his best, and the very best possible that can be given. A real life, truly lived in the world, is a power, and the person who lives such a life is a power for good wherever he may be. The presence of such a person is an inspiration and a light, as we all know. The man who loves the whole world with heart and soul, and loves without ceasing, is doing far more for the race than he who endows universities, and will receive a far greater reward. We must remember, however, that such a love is not mere sentiment. Real love is a power, and will cause the person who has it to do his very best for everybody under every possible circumstance. That person whose heart is with the race will never be satisfied with inferior work. He will never shirk, nor leave the problems of life to somebody else. He will go in and push wherever something good is being done, and he will constantly endeavor to render better and better service wherever his field of action may be. Such a person will give his best to the world, whether he gives through the channels of art or mechanics, music or literature, physical labor or intellectual labor, ideas or real living. What he does will be the best, and what he receives in return will be the best that the world is able to give. Give the best that you are through every thought, word, and deed. That is the principle, and your life will be constantly enriched both from without and from within. Through the daily application of this principle, you will develop superiority in mind, soul, character, and life, and the world will be better off because you are here. Expect the best from everybody, and everybody will do their best for you. There may be occasional exceptions to this rule, but through close examination, we shall find that these exceptions are due solely to our own negligence in applying the law to every occasion. The man who expects the best from everybody and has faith in everybody will certainly receive more love, more kindness, better friendship, better service, and more agreeable associates by far than the one who has little or no faith in anyone. But our faith in people must be alive, and our expectations must have soul. To live constantly in the fear that people will do this or that, and that such and such mistakes may be made, is to live in a confused mental world, and where there is much confusion, there will be many mistakes. Mental states are contagious. How that can be is not a matter for present discussion, but the fact that they are is extremely important, and we all know that they are. Therefore, if we live in fear and confusion, we will be a disturbing element among all those with whom we associate, and if our associates are not mentally strong and positive, they will be more or less confused by our presence, and they are very liable to produce the very mistakes we feared. On the other hand, when we have faith in people, we help them to have faith in themselves, and the more faith a person has in himself, the fewer his mistakes and the better his work. When we have faith in everybody and are constantly expecting the best from everybody, we create wholesome conditions in our own minds, conditions that will tend to develop the best in ourselves. That person, however, who has no faith in others will soon lose faith in himself, and when he does, there will be a turn for the worse in his life. True, he may continue to possess a mechanical self-confidence or an exaggerated state of egotism, but such a state will soon produce a reaction, and failure will follow. The self-confidence that brings out the best that is within us is always founded upon a living faith in the inherent greatness of man. Therefore, no one can have real faith in himself unless he also has faith in the greater possibilities of the race, and no one can expect the best from himself and give soul to that expectation unless he also expects the best from others. This is a scientific fact that anyone can prove in his own daily experience. To expect the best from everybody will cause everybody to do their best for you. Look for the best everywhere, and you will find the best wherever you go. Why this is so is a matter upon which many delight to speculate, but the why does not concern us just now. It is the fact that this law works that concerns us, and concerns us very much. Not everybody can fully understand why the best is always found by him who never looks for anything but the best. But everybody can look for the best everywhere, and thereby find the best, and it is the finding of the best that attracts our attention. It is real results that we are looking for, and the simpler the method, the better. The man who will constantly apply this law will not remain in undesirable environments very long, nor will he occupy an inferior position very long. Better things will positively come his way, and he will not have to wait an age for the change. The man who looks for the best is constantly thinking about the best, and constantly impressing his mind with the best thought about everything. And since man is as he thinks, we can readily understand why such a man will become better and better. Therefore, by looking for the best everywhere, he will not only find the best in the external world, but he will create the best in his mental world. This will give him a greater mind, which in turn will produce higher attainments and greater achievements. That man, however, who is always looking for the worst, will constantly think about the worst, and will fill his mind with inferior thoughts. That he himself will become inferior by such a process is a foregone conclusion. We shall positively find sooner or later what we constantly look for. It is therefore profitable to look for the best everywhere and at all times. We become like those things that we constantly and deeply think about. It is therefore profitable to think only of the best, whatever may come or not. The average person may not find the best the very first day this principle is applied. Most of us have strayed so far away from this mode of thinking and living that it may take some time to get back to the path that leads to the best. But one thing is certain: whoever will look for the best everywhere, and continue to do so for a reasonable length of time, will find that path. Besides, he will have more delightful experiences while he is training himself to apply this principle than he has had for any similar period before. This, however, will only be the beginning. The future has far greater things in store if he will continue to look for the best and never look for anything else. When things are not to your liking, like them as they are. In other words, while you are working for greater things, make friends with the lesser things, and they will help you to reach your goal. The person who is dissatisfied with things as they are, and discontented because things are not to his liking, is standing in his own way. We cannot get away from present conditions so long as we antagonize those conditions, because we are held in bondage to that which we resist. If you want present conditions to become stepping stones to better things, you must get on the better side of present conditions, and you do that by liking things as they are while they remain with you. We must be in harmony with the present if we wish to advance, because in order to advance we must use the present, but we cannot use that with which we are not in harmony. This is a fact that deserves the most thorough attention and will, when understood, explain fully why the average person seems powerless to rise above his surroundings. We must be on friendly terms with everything that exists in our present world if we wish to gain possession of all the building material that our present world can give. And we cannot secure too much material if we desire to build a larger life and a greater future. That which we dislike becomes detrimental to us, no matter how good it may be. Nevertheless, it will always be with us because it is impossible to eliminate permanently that which we antagonize. When we run away from it in one place, we shall meet it elsewhere in some other form. But that which we love will constantly serve us and help us on to greater things. When it can serve us no longer, it will disappear. To like those things, however, that are not to our liking may seem difficult, but the question is why they are not to our liking. When we know that everything in our present world is a stepping stone to something still better, it will be natural for us to like everything. Those things may not come up to our ideals, but that is not their real purpose. It is not the mission of present things to serve as ideals. Their mission is to help us reach our ideals, and they positively can do this if we will take them into friendly cooperation. When you take a drive to an ideal country place, you do not dislike the horse because he is not that country place. If you are humane, you will love that horse because he is willing and able to take you where you wish to go. If you should dislike and mistreat that horse, or should fail to hitch him to the vehicle, you would not reach your destination. This, however, is the very thing that the average person does with the things of his present world. These things are the horses and the vehicles that can take us to the ideal places we desire to reach, but we must hitch them up. We must treat them right and use them. To cause all things that are about us now to work together with us, we must be in perfect harmony with them. We must like them as they are, and that becomes comparatively easy when we know that it is necessary for them to be what they are in order that they may serve as our stepping stones. If they were different, there would be no stepping stones, and we would have to remain where we are. When we realize that everything that exists in our present world has the power to promote our advancement, if we properly use that power, and when we realize that it is necessary to be in harmony with all things to use the power that is within those things, we shall no longer dislike anything. We shall even make friends with adversity, because the power that is in adversity can be tamed by kindness and love, and when that power is tamed, it becomes our own. These are great facts and easily demonstrated by anyone, and whoever will apply these principles will find that by liking everything that he finds, he will secure the cooperation of everything, and anyone can move forward rapidly when all things are working with him. Consequently, by liking what he finds, he will find what he likes. When you do not get what you want, take what you can get and call it good. It is better to have something than nothing. Besides, we must use what we can get before we can become so strong and so able that we can get whatever we may want. When a person fails to realize his ideals, there is a reason. Usually the cause is this: he simply longs for the ideal, but does not work himself up to the ideal. And to work himself up to the ideal, he needs everything that he can get and use now. By taking what he can get, he secures something to work with in promoting his present progress. And by looking upon this something as good, he will turn it into good account. It is a well-known fact that we get the best out of everything when we meet everything in the conviction that it is good for something, because this attitude invariably brings the mind into conscious touch with the real value of that which is met. What we constantly look for, we are sure to find. Therefore, by calling everything good that we get, and by constantly looking for the real worth of that which we get, the good in everything that we get will be found. The result is that everything we receive or come in contact with will be good for something to us, and will have something of value to give us. Gradually, the good will so accumulate that we shall have all that we want. Life will be filled with that which has quality and worth, which means that the development towards greater worth will constantly take place, and development towards greater worth means the constant ascension into the realization of our ideals. By accepting and using the good that we can now secure, we add so much to the worth of our own life that we become worthy of the greater good we may desire. In consequence, we shall positively receive it. This process may not satisfy those who expect to reach the top at once, or expect to receive the better without making themselves better, but it will satisfy those who would rather move forward gradually and surely than stand empty-handed, waiting and waiting for ages, hoping that some miraculous secret may be found through which everything can be accomplished at once. The idea, however, is not that we should meekly submit to things as they are and be satisfied with what little fate may seem willing to give us. That is the other extreme, and is just as detrimental to human welfare. Take everything that legitimately comes your way. Do not refuse it because it seems too small. Take it and call it good, because it is good for something. Then make the best possible use of it with a view of getting greater good through that use. Expect everything to multiply in your hands. Have that faith. Accept little things as well as large things in that conviction, and every good that you do accept will be instrumental in bringing greater good to you. To live in the attitude of turning everything to good account has a most wholesome effect upon the mind and character, because that mental attitude will tend to turn everything within yourself to good account. The result will be the constant development of a finer character and a more capable mind. By combining all the results from this mode of living, and by noting the greater results that will invariably come from these combined results, we must conclude that the total gain will be great, and that he who turns to good account everything that comes into his life will positively receive everything that he may require to live an ideal life. Live in the cheerful world, even if you have to create such a world in your own imagination. Resolve to be happy regardless of what comes. You cannot afford to be otherwise. Count everything joy, meet everything in the spirit of joy, and expect everything to give you joy. By creating a cheerful world in your own imagination, you develop the tendency to a sunny disposition, and by meeting everything in the attitude of joy, you will soon meet only those things that naturally produce joy. Like does attract like. Much sunshine will gather more sunshine, and the happiest minds meet the most delightful experiences. When exceptions occur, pass them by as of no consequence, because they are of no consequence to you. You are interested only in happy events. It is only such events that you desire to meet. Therefore, there is no reason whatsoever why you should pay any attention to any other kind. It is a fact that the less attention we pay to unpleasant conditions, the less unpleasantness we meet in life. That person who looks for the disagreeable everywhere and expects to find it everywhere will certainly find what he is looking for in most places, if not in all places. On the other hand, the person who expects only the pleasant will seldom find anything else. We attract what we think of the most. There is no better medicine than cheerfulness, especially for the circulation and the digestive functions. Keep your mind full of living joy, and your circulation will be strong in every part of your being, and a strong, full circulation is one of the secrets to perfect health. Another great secret to health is a good digestion, and it is well to remember that so long as you are thoroughly bright and happy, you can digest almost anything. The greatest value of cheerfulness, however, is found in its effect upon the mind, that is, in its power to make faculties and talents grow, just as sunshine makes flowers grow. It is a well-known fact that the most cheerful mind is the most brilliant mind. Other things being equal, and that the brightest ideas always come when you are in the brightest frame of mind. This makes cheerfulness indispensable to those who wish to improve themselves and develop superior mental power. The depressed mind is always dull and never sees anything clearly, while the cheerful mind learns more readily, remembers more easily, and understands more perfectly. But we must not conclude that cheerfulness is all that is necessary to the development of a fine intelligence. There must be mental power and mental quality as well. But the power and the quality of the mind, however great, cannot be fully expressed without an abundance of mental sunshine. Though the warmest sunshine may fail to make a grave null production, still the most fertile soil will remain barren so long as the sunshine is absent. There are thousands of fertile minds in the world that are almost wholly unproductive because they lack mental sunshine. If these would cultivate real, genuine mental brightness, every part of the world would sparkle with brilliant ideas. What the acorn is to the oak, bright ideas are to a great and successful life, and we all can produce bright ideas through the development of mental ability and the cultivation of mental sunshine. Cheerfulness keeps the body in the best condition and brings out the best that there is in the mind. To attain the cheerful state, we must remember that it is a product of the inner life and does not come from circumstances or conditions. Therefore, the first essential is to create a cheerful world in the imagination. Picture in mind the brightest states of existence that you can think of, and impress joy upon mind at all times. Feel joy, think joy, and make every action of mind and body thrill with joy. Ere long, you will have created within yourself the subconscious cause of joy, and when this is done, cheerfulness and brightness will become permanent elements in yourself. Live in the present only, and seek to make the great eternal now as full and complete as possible. It is what we do for the present that counts. The past is gone, and the future is not ready to be acted upon. Give your time, your talent, and your power to that which is now at hand, and you will do things worthwhile. You will not waste thought upon what you expect to do, but you will turn all your energies upon that which you can do now. Results will positively follow. The man who does things worthwhile in the present will not have to worry about the future. For such a man, the future has rich rewards in abundance. The greater the present cause, the greater the future effect. 9/10 of the worries in the average life are simply about the future. All of these will be eliminated when we learn to live in the present only. Instead of giving anxious thought to the bridge we may have to cross, we should give scientific thought to the increase of present ability and power. Thus we make ourselves fully competent to master every occasion that may be met. To judge the present by the past is not sound doctrine, because if we are advancing, the present is not only larger than the past, but quite different in many, if not all, respects. To follow the past is to limit oneself to the lesser accomplishments of the past, and thus prevent the very best from being attained in the present. The present moment should be dealt with according to the needs of the present moment, regardless of what was done under similar conditions in the past. There is sufficient wisdom at hand now to solve all of the problems of the present moment, if we will make full practical application of that wisdom. He who lives for the present only will live a larger life, a happier life, a far more useful life. This is perfectly natural, because he will not scatter his forces over past ages and future ages, but will concentrate his whole life, all his power, all his ability upon that which he is trying to do now. He will be his best today, because he will give all of his best to the life of today, and he who is his best today will be better still tomorrow. Never complain, criticize, or condemn, but meet all things in a constructive attitude of mind. The critical mind is destructive to itself, and will in time become wholly incompetent to even produce logical criticism. To complain about everything is to constantly think about the inferior side of everything, thus impressing inferiority upon the mind. This will cause the entire process of thinking to become inferior. In consequence, the retrogression of the man himself will inevitably follow. Refuse to complain about anything. Complaints never righted a wrong, and never will. When you seek to gain justice through complaint, you temporarily gain something in one place and permanently lose something in another. Besides, you have harmed your own mind. The fact is that the more you complain, the worse things will become, and the more you criticize what you meet today, the more adverse and inferior will be the things you are to meet tomorrow. The reason why is simple. The complaining mind attracts the cheap and the common, and the critical spirit goes directly down into weakness and inferiority. However, we must remember in this connection that there is a marked difference between the critical attitude and the discriminating attitude. When things are not right, we should say so, but while saying so, we should not enter into a rip and tear frame of mind. The facts should be stated firmly, but gently, and without the slightest trace of ill feeling or condemnation. Simply discriminate between the white and the black, and state the facts, but let no hurt whatsoever appear in your voice. What we say is important, but the way things are said is far more important. Even truth itself can be expressed in such a way that it hurts, harms, and destroys. This, however, is not a true expression. It is truth misdirected, and always produces undesirable effects. To state your wants in a friendly manner is not a complaint, but when there are hurts and whines in your voice, you are making complaints, and you are harming yourself. Besides, you are producing unfavorable impressions upon those with whom you come in contact. It is far better to have faith in people than to criticize and complain, even though everything seems to go wrong, because when we have faith in people, we shall finally attract those who are after our own hearts, and who are competent to do things the way we wish to have them done. Instead of complaining or stating that there is always something wrong, we should live constantly in the strong faith that everything is eternally coming right, we thus place ourselves in harmony with those laws that can and will make things right. This is no idle dream, nor shall we have to wait a long time to secure results. The very day that we establish faith in place of complaints, criticisms, and distrust, the tide will turn. Things will change for the better in our world and continue to improve perpetually. Make the best use of every occasion, and nothing but opportunities will come your way. He who makes the best of everything will attract the best of everything, and it is always an opportunity to meet the best. There are occasions that seem worthless, and the average person thinks he is wasting time while he is passing through such states. But no matter how worthless the occasion may seem to be, the one who makes the best use of it while he is in it will get something of real value out of it. In addition, the experience will have exceptional worth because whenever we try to turn an occasion to good account, we turn everything in ourselves to good account. The person who makes the best use of every occasion is developing his mind and strengthening his own character every day. To such a person, every occasion will become an opportunity and will consequently place him in touch with the greater world of opportunities. Much gathers more, and many small opportunities will soon attract a number of larger ones. Then comes promotion, advancement, and perpetual increase. To him that has shall be given. Every event has the power to add to your life, and will add to your life, if you make the best use of what it has to give. This will constantly increase the power of your life, which will bring you into greater occasions and better opportunities than you ever knew before. Make the best use of everything that comes your way. Greater things will positively follow. That is the law, and he who daily applies this law has a brilliant future before him. Never antagonize anything, neither in thought, word, nor deed, but live in that attitude that is non-resisting to evil, while positively and continuously inclined towards the good. You give your energy to that which you resist. You thereby give life to the very thing you seek to destroy. To resist evil is to increase the power of evil, and at the same time take life and power away from that good which you wish to develop or promote. The antagonistic mind develops bitterness in itself, and thereby becomes just as disagreeable as the thing disliked, frequently more so, and we cannot expect to be drawn into the more delightful elements of the ideal while we ourselves are becoming less and less ideal. To live in the antagonistic attitude is to perpetuate a destructive process throughout mind and body, and at the same time suffer a constant loss of energy. We therefore cannot afford to be antagonistic at any time, nor even righteously indignant, no matter how perfectly in the right we may be. Though in this connection it is well to remember that indignation never can be righteous. There are a number of minds that have the habit of feeling an inner bitterness towards those beliefs or systems of thought which they cannot accept. Frequently there can be no logical grounds for such a feeling. In many instances it is simply hereditary or the result of foundationless prejudice. Nevertheless, it is there, and is actually sapping life and power out of the mind that has it. This habit is therefore responsible for much mental weakness, inability, and consequent failure. And as everything that tends to decrease the life and power of the individual tends to shorten his life, as well as decrease the value and usefulness of his life, it is evident that we cannot afford to feel bitter toward any religion, any belief, or any doctrine, any party, or any person whatsoever. We harm ourselves by doing so, and do not add to the welfare or happiness of anybody. Be on friendly terms with the entire universe, and feel kindly towards every creature in existence. Leave the ills of perverted life to die. Let the dead bury their dead. It is our privilege to press on and promote the greatest good that we know, and when we give our whole time and attention to the highest attainment of the greatest good, evil will die of itself. This is what it means to overcome evil with good, and it is the one perfect path to complete emancipation, both for the individual and for the race. If you wish to serve the race, do not antagonize systems, doctrines, methods, or beliefs. Be an inspiration to the race by actually living the very best you know now. Chapter 4. The First Thought in Ideal Thinking. Quote, "But seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." Matthew 6:33. The kingdom of God is a spiritual kingdom within man, and manifests through man as the spiritual life. His righteousness is the right use of all that is contained in the elements of the spiritual life. The spiritual life being the complete life, the full expression of life in body, mind, and soul, it is evident that the right use of the spiritual life will produce and bring everything that man may need or desire. The source of everything has the power to produce everything, provided the power within that source is used according to exact spiritual law. The spiritual life being the source of all that is necessary to a full and perfect life, and the kingdom within being the source of the spiritual life, we can readily understand why the kingdom should be sought first, and also why everything that we may require will be added when the first thought is given to spiritual living, ideal thinking, and righteous action. Righteous action, however, does not simply imply moral action, but the right use of the elements of life in all action. The kingdom of God is the spiritual side of all things. This spiritual side is within the manifested or visible side. That is, everything is filled with an inner, finer something that is perfect and complete. Every part of the outer world is filled and permeated with an inner world, and everything that appears in the outer world is a partial manifestation or expression of what exists in a perfect and complete state in the inner world. This inner world is the kingdom referred to, and as it is inexhaustible in every sense of that term, there is nothing we cannot receive when we learn to draw upon the riches of this vast inner realm. In the life of man, we have the outer and the inner worlds, the personal life in the without, and the great spiritual life in the within. What appears in the outer world of man, that is, in his personal existence, is the result of what he has sought and brought forth from his inner world. According to one of the greatest of metaphysical laws, we express whatever we become conscious of. We therefore understand clearly why the personal man, or his outer world, is the direct result of what he has become conscious of in his interior world. Man is what he is in the without because he has sought the corresponding elements in the within, and he may change the without in any manner desired by seeking first in the within those qualities and attributes that he may desire. To seek and find the within is to become conscious of the within, and what is thus sought and found will express itself in personal life, but its real value will depend upon whether it is properly used or not. To seek the richer kingdom within is the first essential, but to promote the righteous use of these greater riches is the second essential, and is just as important as the first. To give the first thought at all times to the great spiritual kingdom within, it is not necessary to withdraw attention from the outer world, nor to deny oneself the good things that may exist in the outer world. To seek the kingdom first is to give one's strongest thought to the spiritual life, and to make spiritual thought the predominating thought in everything that one may do in life. In other words, live so closely to the spiritual kingdom within that you are fully conscious of that kingdom every moment, and depend absolutely upon supreme power to carry you through whatever you may undertake to do. To seek the kingdom first, the heart must be in the spirit, that is, to live in the full realization of the inner spiritual life at all times must be the one predominating desire. However, the mental conception of the spiritual life must not be narrow, but must contain the perfection of everything that can possibly appear in life. To think of the spiritual life as being distinct from mind and body is to prevent the elements of the great interior life from being expressed in mind and body, and what is not expressed cannot be lived. The spiritual life in this larger sense must be thoroughly lived in mind and body. The power of the spiritual must be made the soul of all power, and the law of spiritual action must be made the rule and the guide in all action. When the spiritual is lived in all life, the richness and the quality and the worth of the spiritual will be expressed in all life, and spiritual worth means the sum total of all worth. There are any number of minds in the world who now realize this greater worth, and who have found the spiritual riches within to an extraordinary degree, but they have not in every instance sought righteousness. Therefore, these spiritual riches have been of no use. Frequently they have become obstacles in the living of a life of personal welfare and growth. Real righteousness means right living and exact scientific thinking, that is, the correct expression of everything of which we are now conscious. To be righteous does not simply mean to be moral and truthful and just, but to live in harmony with all laws, physical, mental, moral, and spiritual. To be in harmony with physical law is to adapt oneself orderly to everything in the external world, to resist no exterior force, but to constructively use every exterior force in such a manner that perpetual physical development may take place. To be in harmony with mental laws is to promote scientific thinking. That is, to think the truth about everything and to see everything from the universal viewpoint. Scientific thinking is that mode of thinking that causes all the forces of mind and thought to constantly work for greater things. To be in harmony with moral laws is to live a life of complete purity, and purity in the true sense of the term is the doing of all things at the right time, in the right place, and with the right motive. In other words, every action is a pure action that leads to higher and better things. All other actions are not pure, therefore not moral. To be in harmony with spiritual laws is to live in constant conscious touch with the inner or higher side of everything. To apply the spiritual law is to seek the spiritual first, no matter what the goal in view may be. To seek first the spiritual counterpart that is within everything, to make the spiritual thought the predominating thought, and to dwell constantly in the spiritual attitude. We enter the spiritual attitude when we enter the upper story of the mind and mentally face that supreme side of life that is created in the likeness of the Supreme. Briefly stated, to be righteous is to be in harmony with the outer side of life, to think the truth, to live in real purity, to dwell on the spiritual heights, and to give full and complete expression to the highest and the best of which we are now conscious. When this is done, we shall rightly manifest whatever we may find in the kingdom within. Righteousness, however, is not a definite goal, but a perpetual process of attainment that involves the entire being of man. The righteous man is right and perfect as far as he is ascended in the scale of life at present, though not simply in a moral sense, but in every sense, including body, mind, and soul. The righteous man is never weak, never sick, and is never in a state of discord or disorder. This is a great truth that we should not fail to remember. Sickness, weakness, discord, and all other adverse conditions come from the violation of law somewhere in human life, but the righteous man violates no law. He is true to life as far as he is ascended in the scale of life. To be righteous in the absolute sense of the term is to use everything in our present world as God uses everything in His world, which means in harmony with its own nature, in harmony with its sphere of action, and in harmony with that law that leads upward and onward forever. Righteous action is that action that is always harmonious and that always works for better things, greater things, higher things. The great majority of those minds that are awakened to the reality of the spiritual side of things have already found an abundance of good things in the vast interior life that is ready for manifestation in personal life. But, as most of these have neglected the law of real righteousness, this abundance remains inactive in the potential state, and all other things, as promised, are not added. that all other things will be added when his kingdom and his righteousness are sought first may not seem clear to everybody, because the kingdom of God has been looked upon as a faraway place that we are to enter when we leave the body, and righteousness has been looked upon as simply a moral, just, and honest mode of living. But when we realize that the kingdom is the great spiritual world within us, and that from this world comes all wisdom, all power, all talent, all life, in brief, everything that we now possess in body, mind, and soul, and that everything we are to receive in the future must come from the same source, we understand clearly why the kingdom must be sought first. We cannot secure anything unless we go to the source, and the spiritual kingdom within us is the one only source of everything that is manifested in human life. When we desire more wisdom and a greater understanding, it is evident that we can obtain these things only by entering real mental light, and that light is within us, in the Spirit. By entering into the consciousness of the illumined world within, we naturally receive more light. We ourselves become illumined to a degree, frequently to a great degree, and we thus gain the power to understand perfectly what we could neither desire nor comprehend before. When we seek more life and more power, we can find the greater life only in the eternal life, and the eternal life is the life of the Spirit in the kingdom within. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. To wait upon the Lord is to enter into the spiritual presence of the infinite, and whenever we enter into the presence of the infinite, we enter into the life of the infinite, and we are thus filled through and through with the supreme power of that life. When we enter into the spiritual kingdom within, we enter into the Christ consciousness, and in that consciousness we receive the life more abundant, because to be in the Christ consciousness is to be in the very spirit of the limitless life of the Christ. When we seek health, we can find it in the kingdom, because in the Spirit all is always well. There is a realm within man where perfect health reigns supremely and eternally. In that realm, everything is always perfectly whole, and to enter into that realm is to enter into absolute health and wholeness. No one who lives constantly in the Spirit can possibly be sick, because sickness can no more enter the spiritual state than darkness can enter where there is absolute light. To enter the kingdom within is to enter health, happiness, and harmony in the highest, largest degree. Therefore, by seeking the kingdom, health will be added, happiness will be added, harmony will be added. It is impossible, however, to gain health, happiness, and harmony in the true sense from any other source. But to seek these qualities in the kingdom is not sufficient. We must also seek righteousness, or right expression of those things. If we misuse any organ, faculty, function, or power anywhere in the body, mind, or soul, we cannot remain in health, no matter how spiritual we may try to be. To enter the kingdom within is to enter the perpetual increase of power, because there is no limit to the power of the Spirit, and the more power we enter into or become conscious of, the more power we shall give to mind and body. In consequence, the more spiritual we become, the stronger we become, the more able we become, the more competent we become, and the more we can accomplish whatever our work may be. And he who can do good work in the world invariably receives the good things of the world. To his life will be added all those things that can make personal existence rich and beautiful. To enter the kingdom within is to enter the life of freedom. There is no bondage in the Spirit, and as we grow in the Spirit, we grow out of every form of bondage. One adverse condition after another disappears until absolute freedom is gained. Therefore, when we seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, we shall find the life of complete emancipation. Perfect freedom in all things and at all times will positively be added. There are thousands of aspiring souls in this age that are trying to develop their powers and talents so that they might be of greater use in the world. But if these would seek the kingdom first, they would find within themselves the real source of every talent, and as the only way to permanently increase is to increase the expressions of its source, we understand perfectly why greatness can only come when we begin to live in the great within. We must always bear in mind that what we become conscious of, we bring forth into personal expression. But we cannot become conscious of the larger source of any quality or talent unless we enter into the spirit of that quality and talent. And as the spirit of all things has its source of real existence in the kingdom within, we must enter this interior world if we wish to become conscious of a larger and a larger measure of those things that we wish to express. That any person can improve his environment or overcome poverty by seeking the kingdom first may not seem possible, but the truth is that adverse conditions will positively disappear after one begins to actually live the full spiritual life. Poverty has two causes: lack of ability and the misplacing of ability. To improve ability to any degree, the within must be awakened. We must learn to draw upon the inexhaustible sources of the inner life and become conscious of the greater capacity that lies latent within us. This is accomplished by seeking the kingdom first, by giving your first thought, your predominant thought, to the great and mighty world within. Your mind will gradually enter more deeply into the life of this inner world. You thus become conscious of the larger powers within, because consciousness always follows the predominating thought. What you think of the most develops in yourself. When you think the most of the spiritual, consciousness will follow your spiritual thought and thus enter more deeply into the spirit. The result is you become conscious of a larger spiritual domain every day. You become conscious of a greater capacity within yourself every day, and since you always express what you become conscious of, you will cause greater ability and capacity to be developed and expressed in yourself every day. You thereby remove the first cause of poverty and place yourself in a position where you will be in greater demand, and the greater the demand for your service, the greater will be your recompense. There are a number of people who have misplaced their talents that may have considerable ability, but they are not in the work for which they are adapted, and therefore do not succeed. They may have been forced into their present positions by necessity, or They may have chosen their present places through inferior judgment, but both of these causes may be changed by seeking the kingdom first. When we enter the spiritual, everything clears up. We not only see our mistakes, but also how to correct them. Therefore, if you are in the wrong place, enter the spiritual light of the kingdom within, and you will see clearly where you belong. If you do not know whether you are in the proper sphere or not, enter the Spirit. Constantly live in the Spirit, and you will soon know. You will also know when and how to change. By entering this state where the outlook is infinitely greater, you will see opportunities, open doors, possibilities, and pastures green that you never saw before. And you will also see clearly which one you have the power and the capacity to take advantage of now. If you have been forced into the wrong place by necessity, the larger mental life that will come when you seek the kingdom will give you the power to command something better, and the superior wisdom that comes through the light of Spirit will guide you in your choice. Instead of adversity and constant need, you will have peace, harmony, and abundance. You will pass from the world of poverty and limitation to a world that can offer a future as brilliant as the sun. The man who fights adversity and complains of his lot will continue in poverty and need. He will remain in mental darkness. He will be daily misled and will always be doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. Such a life breeds ill luck and misfortune and perpetuates the poverty that already exists. However, let this person enter into harmony with his present fate, count everything joy, and realize that he can make his present misfortune a stepping stone to better things. Then let him give his first thought to the kingdom, to the greater life, and the power and the capacity within, to the superior creative powers of his own mind, those powers that are able even now to create for him a better fate. If he will but place before them a better pattern, the results will be peace of mind first, then hope of the better, then the vision of great changes near at hand, then the faith that the new life, the new time, and the better days are now being created for his world. And when a person begins to inwardly feel that things are taking a turn, that better days are coming, and that the good is beginning to accumulate in his life, the victory is nearly won. A little more faith and perseverance, and the crowning day is at hand. From that moment, all things will begin to work together for good things and for still greater things, providing the mind is held in constant conscious touch with the spiritual kingdom within, and all the laws of life are employed according to the highest ideal of righteousness. Many a person, however, has failed while on the very verge of his victory, because he neglected the kingdom when he began to see the change coming. By giving his first thought to the material benefits that he expected to secure, his consciousness is taken away from the Spirit and becomes confused in those things that had not as yet been placed in the true order of perpetual increase. The result is a scattering of forces, and his loss upon the hold of the good things that were beginning to gravitate towards his world. While ascending this upward path, we must at every step keep the eye single upon the kingdom, upon the spiritual, upon the larger and the higher life within. When the other things are being added, we must not forget the kingdom and give our first thoughts to the other things. We shall enjoy these other things so much the more if we continue to give the first thought to the Spirit. This is evident because while giving the first thought to the Spirit, everything that comes into our world will be spiritualized, refined, and perfected, and will thus be given added power and worth. When we continue to give the first thought to the spiritual kingdom, those other things that are added will enter our world at their best, and we shall receive the best that those things may have to give. We are always at our best when we are on the heights, and we gain the power to create, produce, and attract those things from every part of life that correspond to the life on the heights. Therefore, by living on the heights in the spiritual kingdom, we gain everything that we may require. We gain the best of everything that we may require. And we are in that condition where we can make the best use of what comes and enjoy what comes to the highest and most perfect degree. We can thus readily understand that when we seek the kingdom of God constantly, giving our first thought to the spiritual, and seeking to live righteously according to this larger view of righteousness, all problems of life will be solved. All the crooked paths of life will be made straight. Obstacles will disappear. Our circumstances will change to correspond with our ideas, and we will daily enter into a better life and a greater state of existence than we ever knew before. The problems of the world can be solved in the same way. Therefore, the greatest things that we can do for the human race is to make clear this law, that is, the law through which His kingdom and His righteousness may be sought first by any individual, no matter what the degree of that individual's understanding may be. To promote a real spiritual movement on the largest possible scale is to cause the ills of humanity to gradually but surely pass away. This planet will then become not a vale of tears, but what it is intended to be, the kingdom of God, realized here upon earth. The human race, however, is the product of human thought. Therefore, the prime essential is to inspire the human mind with the power to give His kingdom and His righteousness the first thought. To make the ideal real upon earth, all thinking must be ideal. And to cause all things to become ideal, the foundation of all things must be based upon pure spiritual thought. That is, every thought that is created in the mind must be animated with this great first thought, the thought of the kingdom within, and the full righteous expression of that kingdom. When we seek first the kingdom and His righteousness, all other things are added, not in some mysterious manner, nor do they come of themselves regardless of conscious effort to work in harmony with the law of life. We receive from the kingdom only what we are prepared to use in the living of a great life and in the doing of great and worthy things in the world. We receive only in proportion to what we give, and it is only as we work well that we produce great results. But by entering the spiritual life, we receive everything that we may require in order to give as much as we may desire, to do as much as we may desire. We gain the power and the talent to do everything that is necessary to give worth and superiority to our entire state of existence. When we enter the spiritual life, we gain every quality that is necessary in making life full and complete now, and we gain the power to produce and create in the external world whatever we may need or desire. In other words, we receive everything we want from within, and we gain the power to produce everything we want in the without. We therefore need never take anxious thought about these other things. By seeking first His kingdom and His righteousness, we shall positively receive these other things. The way will be open to all that is rich, beautiful, and superior in life, and we shall be abundantly supplied with the best that life can give.